asking somebody? Okay, bye. I got you. Meeting will come to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Jimmy Rogers, the pastor of Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. We will then be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Fusco.
Let us bow. Father, we thank you so much for your loving kindness, your tender mercy. We thank you for having your hand of protection over Akron. Father, we ask even now that you would move by your Spirit on this meeting and these proceedings. Give us wisdom on how to deliberate the things that you've placed in our hearts to do. Touch our president, touch the council people, God, as they go forth in plans to cover this city under your care. We cannot do anything except it be through your blood. We ask now that you would bless these proceedings, illuminate our eyes to see what it is that you want us to see, our ears to hear what it is you want us to hear, and our mouths to speak what it is you want us to say. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready.
Clerk will read the minutes from the previously held meeting.
Meetings from February 12, 2018. Council convened in regular session at 7 p.m. with President Somerville in the chair. Minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved. Reading of petitions and communications, passage of the consent agenda, report of standing and special committees, passage and referral of new ordinances and resolutions, representation from various departments and divisions, public speaking period. No further business on a motion by Fusco. Council adjourned at 7:49 p.m. to reconvene in regular session on February 26, 2018, or special call.
Any corrections or additions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Letters, petitions, and communications.
Petition of Edward Hazlett for conditional use to retain a solid fence within the setback at 1519 Preston Avenue.
Attention planning.
Petition of Thomas Tumlin for a conditional use to retain a solid fence within the setback at 1250 Brown Street.
Attention planning.
Correspondence from Ian Mayut of Buckeye Community Hope Foundation informing council that Majorie House Partners Incorporated plans to be the general partner of a residential rental development.
File.
Correspondence from Joseph Guy requesting council to publicly support a ban on assault rifles, ban on large capacity ammo clips, ban on bump stocks, support universal background checks, and disallowing gun show purchases without background check.
File.
Notice of a new D2 liquor permit to the Blue Note Lounge LLC, 1474 Copley Road.
Special attention, Councilman Neal.
Notice from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control of a corrected applicant name for the new C1 liquor permit at 1760 Goodyear Boulevard.
Special attention, Councilman Milkovich.
Income tax receipts through the end of January 2018.
File.
Okay.
We have before us the consent agenda. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll now move into our old business rules. Councilman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like time as a committee on what's standing.
Time will be granted. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
Committee requests time.
Time will be granted. On this evening, we do have 3 public hearings. So we're going to ask if you are here to speak on 1912 Buckholzer Boulevard, 1956 South Main Street, or 280 Hampshire Road, that you will please stand at this time so that you can be sworn in by our law department. So if you're here to speak at any of those 3 public hearings, thank you.
If you plan to speak, please stand, raise your right hand, and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
Okay. First public hearing. Legal notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 26, 2018, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a medical marijuana dispensary at 1912 Buckholzer Boulevard.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Galenas Wellness LLC proposes to utilize and renovate the southernmost storefront of this one-story concrete block retail building to dispense medical marijuana. The interior arrangement of the floor space would be renovated to allow the patients to be processed securely. Patients will enter through a high-security door into a waiting room, which will be staffed by a plainclothes security officer. After presenting proper documentation, the patient would be escorted to the dispensing room to purchase their product. All products will be stored in a highly secured vault with no more than a 30-day supply on site. All deliveries will be pre-scheduled and will take place within the secure delivery area. The building will be under constant video surveillance. Petitioners state they will create 10 to 15 full-time local jobs. Hours of operation would be Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Signage will conform to state requirements, which will ensure appropriate and responsible content. The proposed medical marijuana dispensary is within a dense retail area. It has ample parking and is easily accessible to Route 8, which is less than a mile away. The site's also accessible from 2 Metro bus stops. Any petitioner for a medical marijuana dispensary site must satisfy state of Ohio requirements to be considered as one of only 3 dispensaries in Summit County and 18 total in Northeast Ohio. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience that is here to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here to speak in favor? If you'll approach the podium, please give us your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sheezer. I live at 6549 West Point Drive in Hudson, Ohio, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. One of the questions that is often asked is, what are the purpose, the use, intended use for medical marijuana? And I brought with me tonight, and I'd like the opportunity to read off the 21 conditions that are approved by the state. They include AIDS, ALS or Lou Gehrig's syndrome, Alzheimer's, cancer, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, Crohn's disease, epilepsy or other seizure disorders, fibromyalgia, glaucoma, hepatitis C, inflammatory bowel disease, multiple sclerosis, pain that is either chronic and severe or intractable, Parkinson's disease, positive status for HIV, post-traumatic stress disorder, sickle cell anemia, spinal cord disease or injury, Tourette's syndrome, traumatic brain injury, or ulcerative colitis. The reason I read that is these are severe conditions. Medical marijuana has been approved by the state to treat these severe conditions where other drugs have either been ineffective or, quite frankly, have been addictive and created other problems for the patients. Galenus Wellness is seeking to place a medical marijuana dispensary that is both secure, that is run very professionally. The actual facility itself is run by a clinical director who is currently today a manager of a pharmacy. At the facility will be counselors to be able to treat both mental and physical aspects of the administration of the medicine. The facility itself will have cameras recording day and night all activity, both inside and outside the facility. A secure vault is located at the facility, and only during the operation hours will the medical marijuana be on display in a secure section of the facility. The patients would enter first an open atrium area that would be serviced by a security professional that would check the proper ID to identify that they are authorized by the state. If they are, they will then be met by a counselor inside through a biometrically screened door that only has access to key employees. They will then receive counseling at the facility and be escorted to the facility where the medical marijuana will be displayed to choose with the counselor the best options that they have to treat their conditions. All transportation will be secure per the state, and the facility itself will employ 10 to 15 employees, generating income for the community on a tax revenue basis, as well as serving holistically the patients in the Akron community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience to speak in favor? If you approach the podium, please give your name and your address.
I'm Dr. Steve Cochran, 1590 Shade Road in Bath. I am a geriatrician, now retired, and I can assure you that the medical community strongly supports the availability of medical marijuana. It is very useful, as pointed out, for alleviating symptoms such as depression, chronic pain, and what I see as a geriatrician working with patients in the nursing home is the progressive weight loss due to loss of appetite in people who are experiencing end-stage lung disease. So I encourage you to approve this service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mobian? Neal? Kamer? Swirsky?
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing no objections, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. There's 9 conditions that have been placed on this petition. Also, there is a nice write-up that was provided by the petitioner, which everyone should have received in their box this afternoon, that basically outlines the entire organization and the layout of the building, et cetera, the security measures that's going to be taken. This is located within a retail, well-established retail plaza, and so we then recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call: Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, public hearing number 2. Legal notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 26, 2018, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish, I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. Is there another medical one today? Okay. To establish a medical marijuana processing again at 1956 South Main Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Galenas Labs LLC received City Council and State of Ohio approval to construct a 10,000 square foot, 2-story building for a level 2 medical marijuana cultivation facility at this location. They are now asking permission to include the processing of medical marijuana to their facility. The building would be expanded at the rear, and the original interior arrangement of the building would be slightly modified. Medical marijuana processing would consist of converting medical marijuana flower and leaves into more purified products, such as oils, lotions, transdermal patches, tablets, and other medically suitable products. Security measures will include video and alarm monitoring, digital key access, backup power generator, and a secured vault. Petitioner anticipates adding 12 full-time employees. The previously approved facility, which would begin construction in early this year, will be an attractive development that will enhance this commercially developed neighborhood. Any petitioner for a medical marijuana processing site must also satisfy State of Ohio requirements to be considered as one of the 40 statewide processors. Since this location has already received approval from the City of Akron and State of Ohio for medical marijuana cultivation, adding on processing in the same location is an appropriate land use. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Is there anyone here in the audience that's here to speak in favor of this ordinance? We'll have you to approach the podium.
Hello again. I think the main thing is when you look at the processing, it's taking the raw form and creating more metered doses of the medical marijuana for patients so that they can actually control the dosing a lot more efficiently. The processing facility will be located within an already approved cultivation facility. It takes up about 2,500 square feet. We use CO2 extraction, which is extremely safe for the processing of the medical marijuana. The actual facility itself will employ, as mentioned, 12 employees. Our top 2, quality director and operations director, are both PhDs in chemistry. I myself will be the CEO of the facility. I'm an aerospace engineer by background. This is a very clinical application. It's a very sterile environment, and it does not create any emissions into the overall environment. The facility itself is extremely environmentally friendly. It will be solar powered, as well as reclamation of water and treatment of water to any of the outside sewage and or reclamation within the facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Amobian, Hamer, Neal, Swirsky.
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing no objections, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you, President. This particular item we had just voted a couple months ago on, and we approved the actual cultivation. This, of course, is the processing piece, and it kind of makes sense to put it all in the same parcel. And so with that, we recommend approval this evening. I know the Ward Council representative is in favor, as well as the Planning Department and the Planning Commission, I believe, and we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, the third public hearing. It's an ordinance authorizing conditional use to install 2 brine wells west, I'm sorry, that's not correct. I'm one ahead of myself all night. Here we go. Legal notice. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron Monday, February 26, 2018, at the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 280 Hampshire Road.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Matthew Hornbrook is requesting permission to construct a 32-foot by 46-foot garage on his property. The proposed garage is to be situated toward the east side of the property, 10 feet beyond the building line. The new structure will be constructed to a height of 20 feet. The garage would be of wood frame construction, colored with wood siding painted blue, with black shingles on a gabled roof to match the house. The existing large parcel has an ample amount of open space for the construction of a new garage, and the required building setbacks are exceeded. Petitioner has stated that the garage would only be used for the residential purpose of storing vehicles, tools, lawn care, and other personal equipment. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to the conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Very good. We're going to ask that you approach the podium, and if you can give us your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Matthew Hornbrook. I live at 280 Hampshire Road. The reason why I want to build this garage is because when I first moved into the place, I had a travel trailer put in to store in my backyard, and one of the first things that happened was someone called the city inspector on me to see if that was in compliance. I was in compliance, but I realized that my neighbors did not like that. On top of that, I have 3 teenagers in my house who drive, so between us all, we have 7 cars, 2 motorcycles. So needless to say, my driveway is littered with vehicles. So this garage will help us should be able to put all of them in there. Also, when I moved to this property, for my yard equipment, I had to put up a small Rubbermaid shed to park my mower, my snow blower, my leaf sweeper, and those type of items in this. If I'm capable of building this garage, then I will be able to take down that shed and move that type of equipment also into the garage. So the garage will allow me to consolidate all these things which are out and make it, seem much neater, in my opinion. Building large garages is not unusual in my neighborhood. Last year, 2 large garages were built on my street, one at 28 Hampshire. They practically built an entire guest house with a 2-stall garage attached, and also one at 58 Walcott. And I talked to him, and he built a 2-car garage, but then he built a living quarters on top of it. So large garages are not unusual in my area. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item. Mobian. Kamer. Aye. Neal. Aye. Swirsky. Aye.
Okay, this item will be referred. Councilman Fusco, rest of the agenda.
Yes, thank you. Would like to, we have a favorable report with suspension of the rules on item number 4. This is the conditional use for 2 brine wells west of the Manchester Road area. Just to let council know, there was a number of questions that were asked surrounding these 2 brine wells. Those have all been answered. As a matter of fact, I believe everyone had received the correspondence from the petitioners in reference to this. And so all the questions were answered, and we recommend moving forward this evening.
You want to suspend the rules?
Yeah, I thought I mentioned suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Yes, President Somerville, we'd like to request that we file items 5, 6, and 7. These are 3 of the items that we had just voted on this evening.
Okay. 5, 6, and 7 will be filed.
Yes. Time on the balance.
Time will be granted. We will now move into our new legislation. Councilwoman Sims.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to call for a committee of the whole and ask for a vote on item number 8.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I do believe the next order of business is to...
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Councilman Jeff Fusco to chair committee as a whole.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Very good. I'd like to request that the clerk read in item number 8.
Item number 8, offered by Councilperson Samples, Somerville, Neal, Sims, Kilby, Milkovich, Swirsky, and Amobian. Is there anybody that I missed? Okay. This is a resolution calling on the Ohio General Assembly to enact a ban on the sale of assault-style weapons, ammunition magazines in excess of 10 rounds, and modifications that simulate automated fire, such as bump stocks and trigger cranks, and declaring an emergency.
Any questions or comments in reference to this proposal? Samples?
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. This resolution, again, is, as we discussed earlier in committee, is a resolution calling on the Ohio General Assembly to enact a ban on the sale of assault weapons, bump stocks, and trigger cranks. We are at a moment in our state and in this country where we must stand together and say enough is enough. No more assault weapons, no more mass shootings, no more prayers and condolences without action. Today is the first step right here in Akron that is long overdue for necessary change. Today we urge the Ohio General Assembly to take action, just like this council body did in 2013 as a council as a whole, as they urged Congress and the Ohio General Assembly to enact meaningful and reasonable gun control laws. I was not here then, but I know council as a whole supported that measure, and those council people, most of them are here now. Fusco, Neal, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Freeman supported that. But what happened since 2013? A lot has happened since 2013. In June of 2013, we had a 23-year-old with an AR-15 kill 5 and injure 3. 2015, we had a 24-year-old with an AR kill 2 and injure 5. In 2015 again, we had a 36-year-old with an AR-15, killed 2 and injured 2. Again in 2015, we had a 33-year-old with an AR-15, killed 3 before killing himself. In 2015, yet again, we had 2 individuals with AR-15s kill 14 people and injure 21. That's just 2015. Now, we can jump all the way down to what has happened on Valentine's Day down in Florida, or we can talk about Sandy Hook. We're talking about hundreds of individuals who have been killed at the hands of an AR-15. They were children, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, grandparents, grandchildren, and teachers. I think it's important for us to stand with those individuals and say enough is enough, and for us to call on our Ohio General Assembly to enact a ban on assault weapons. And I want to thank my colleagues for co-sponsoring this resolution along with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion, a favorable motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report? Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Okay, roll call, Mr. Keith.
Freeman. Aye. Fusco.
Aye.
Hope. No. Kamer. Keith. Aye. Kilby. Aye. Milkovich. Samples. Neal. Mobian. Sims. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now, rescind the seat back to the president and report on this particular item.
I make a motion to come out of committee as a whole.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it.
Okay. Resolution passes 12-2.
Okay.
There's not 14. It's got to be 11. There's only 13 people.
Do you want to call this out, Mr. Fusco? Just call the total out on the legislation, the resolution. Just the total? Eleven to 2. I'm sorry. Is he going to report it out?
Not till we get to it. When we get to it, we'll report it out. When we get there, so we're in planning right now.
Okay. Item 0. Okay. We're all set. Item 0 in planning, offered by Mr. Fusco. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement for the sale of city-owned property and the execution of an exclusive right-of-way license agreement on a portion of city-owned land located between 925 and 955 Grant Street to SPI Properties, finding the property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda?
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 1, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of city-owned land to Heather and Aaron Woodward, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda?
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance directing the appropriation of fee simple interest in real property owned by David A. White located at 1166 Fifth Avenue for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, reconstructing a sewer or sewers and water lines for drainage, sewerage, water line purposes in connection with the CSO RAC 3 Kelly Green project, declaring the intention of the City of Akron to proceed under the Ohio Revised Code Section 163.06A and Article 1, Section 19 of the Ohio Constitution for the appropriation of real property due to public exigency and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 3, offered by Fusco. Ordinance directing the appropriation of fee simple interest in real property owned by Tamara Pasley or Tamara Giffen, located at 399 Chittenden Street, for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, and constructing a sewer or sewers and water lines for drainage, sewerage, waterline purposes in connection with the CSO RAC 3 Kelly Green project, declaring the intention of the city to proceed under the Ohio Revised Code, Section 163.06A and Article 1, Section 19 of the Ohio Constitution for the appropriation of real property due to the public exigency and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes Director of Public Service to enter into agreement or legislation with the Ohio Director of Transportation for the Canton Road resurfacing project for certain improvements and construction of curb ramps.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes Director of Public Service to enter into an agreement and/or legislation with the Ohio Director of Transportation for certain improvements on the Manchester Road Bridge over the ABC and CSX Railroad near Kenmore Boulevard, declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda also.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 6, offered by Keith. The resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Mark Derrig to the Metro Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report, we have we would like suspension of rules with a favorable report.
Okay. Any objections? Now, we talked about consent earlier. Are you changing it?
I thought this was the one that they needed to get the position filled quickly. Okay, was that consent? For consent? Okay. Okay, consent is fine. Now, please place it on the consent.
Okay, this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
I apologize.
Okay. Item number 7, offered by Kamer. Sims abstained. Is that correct? Number 7? Okay. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts for the purchase of the 911 call center hardware and software on behalf of the city of Stowe and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules, please.
Okay, any objections? Seeing and hearing no objections, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you.
Any comment?
Nope.
Okay. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Why?
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have 1 abstention. 2 abstentions. Roll call.
Write that down. Hold on. Roll call. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay. Now we're going to report item 8 out again. Item 8, resolution calling for the Ohio General Assembly to enact a ban on the sale of assault-style weapons, ammunition magazines in excess of 10 rounds, and modifications that simulate automated fire such as bump stocks and trigger cranks and declare an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
The report of the committee is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. We've heard from the primary sponsor, Representatives Samples, but if she'd like to have more comments, if not, that's fine. We've talked about this at length this afternoon in committee, and we had just had a brief presentation this evening, so recommend approval this evening. Thank you.
Very good. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Roll call.
Roll call. Freeman. Fusco. Hope. Kamer. Keith. Kilby. Vilkovich. Neal. Amovian. Samples. Sims. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes. 11-2. No. Item number 9, offered by President Somerville, Samples, Oregon, Sims, and Amobian. That's correct. Resolution expressing the heartfelt sympathy of the city of Akron to the families and friends of the victims of the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, extending wishes of healing for the Stoneman Douglas community in this time of tragedy and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules, please.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
And I'll refer to you in case you want to make any additional comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Kamer. Just want to speak in favor of this resolution. Again, this is a resolution expressing our sympathy for the senseless tragedy that happened in Parkland, Florida. We're talking about 17 people who were killed, a football coach, an athletic director, and young students who had their whole entire lives in front of them. One of the things that we did talk about earlier that I just wanted to commend many of the brave students who are lending their voices in the debate over gun violence. So it's just my hopes that my colleagues on tonight will support this resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Vilkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. One second. Got one more. Okay. Item number 10, offered by Councilman Freeman, resolution, Freeman and Horrigan, excuse me. Resolution acknowledging the life of the Reverend Billy Graham and expressing condolences to his family on this passing and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
I don't think there's much you can say. The man's had impact on a nation for literally decades. And I actually had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time in 1994, and I probably that day met the essence of humility. And I think it's a loss to our country, but just appreciate council's support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Very good.
Okay.
Before we move into our public comment period, we do have a presentation by Councilwoman Sims. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, as we close out this month of Black History, I'm so pleased to have my two awesome state representatives here in the House this evening to make a presentation to the Honorable Margot Somerville. You know, it's no small feat that in the 100 years of our city's charter, you are the first African-American female that we've had to serve in the capacity of presidents. So for that, we are very, very proud. And so I'm going to ask my awesomeness if they would come forth. help me welcome the Honorable State Representative Amelia Sykes and the Honorable State Representative Tavia Galansky. Could you stand down front, please, ma'am? This is...
Thank you, Madam President and members of Akron City Council. I am Amelia Sykes, State Representative for the 34th House District. I'm joined here with my illustrious colleague, Tavia Galansky from the 35th District. Between the two of us, we represent the entirety of the city of Akron in the Ohio General Assembly. First, before we get to what we're going to get to, I do want to say thank you to Councilwoman Samples for her resolution. Representative Galansky and I stand firmly in support of a ban on bump stocks as well as assault-style rifles, and so you can know that the city is well represented in regards to that issue, and good luck getting the other 97 of my colleagues on board. But we will certainly do our job to get as many people behind that so we can no longer continue to mourn and pass resolutions because our children are being murdered in school and throughout our communities. We are here today. Our primary reason is to recognize Margot Somerville, my constituent, and many of you may have heard me call my district the District of Champions. House District 34 is the District of Champions, and I named it that because of LeBron James, obviously, another guy named Steph Curry, who are both champions in their own right, but there are so many wonderful human beings who are champions, who were born and raised in 34th House District. Councilwoman President Somerville is one of those people, and I love the opportunity to recognize them wherever I go. So even, I pay homage to those folks who won't have their name on nameplates like this or on jerseys or on their names and billboards or lights. Nonetheless, they all deserve to be recognized. And today, I'm very excited to actually recognize the first African-American council president for the City of Akron Council, Margot Somerville, with a commendation from the Ohio House of Representatives. It is signed by myself, Representative Galansky, and the Speaker of the House. We are very proud to call you one of our own. We are very proud that you have taken this very ambitious task, and it was great watching you handle your business here, and you do it well, and you do it with poise and grace, and we are so proud of you and excited that you are the one that gets to represent the city of Akron as council president. So with that, my colleague said she was not going to say anything. We did plan this. We would just like to recognize you and present you with this commendation from the Ohio House of Representatives. Congratulations.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could I just get a...
Councilwoman Sims pulled a fast one on me. Thank you so much. I just want to thank Amelia Sykes and Tavia. Thank you so much. I want to also thank my my colleague here on Akron City Council, Veronica Sims. So thank you. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we call our public comment period. If you wish to speak to this council during this time, you may approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please sign in, that you state your full name, you spell your last name, and give us your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers.
Madam President Somerville, congratulations. We are firmly behind you. Members of the City Council, Mayor Horgan's staff, and city staff, I'm Reverend John Beatty, B-E-A-T-Y, a retired Methodist pastor from Ward 8, 2047 Wyndham Road. If I may ask for your permission, Madam President, I have something I'd like to share with the council members, if Mr. Freeman would be willing to pass those out to the members. Also, I would like permission to introduce my pastor and other friends and supporters of the resolution that you have just passed, number 8. Would you be willing to stand, please? Those of you who have supported the resolution to ban weapons of war in our streets. Thank you very much. As I've said, I came tonight to support the resolution to ban military assault type weapons from our schools, our churches, our concerts, and our streets. I oppose the lie that we can do nothing to stop these mass shootings that is making us all crazy. And I commend the council for their action tonight. Australia had a severe problem with mass shootings until they enacted common sense gun control laws. Connecticut has had a dramatic drop in gun violence after they enacted common sense gun control laws, following the mass killing of 20 students and 6 teachers at Sandy Hook Elementary School with an AR-15. The 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia, the heart of the Confederacy, has decided today that banning military assault weapons by Maryland does not infringe on the Second Amendment. Put simply, we have no power to extend Second Amendment protections to weapons of war, Judge Robert King wrote for the court, adding that the Supreme Court's decision in District of Columbia versus Heller explicitly excluded such coverage. I personally consider the NRA as no longer a gun safety organization, which I knew when I was a kid.
You have about 30 seconds, sir.
It has become an extremist, conspiratorial, seditious purveyor of gun violence. It has done more harm to U.S. citizens than all the foreign extremist organizations combined. Today, there is mass hysteria caused by the NRA. They seek to spread fear throughout our society so that they can sell more guns. Enough is enough. The solution to gun violence is not more guns and more people using them. We must stop worshiping the power of the gun. It is nothing more than idolatry.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty.
My name is Steve Nome. It's N-O-M-E. My address, 1928 6th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a retiree from the Akron Health Department after 32 and a half years. I've been here before, you probably recall. I know there's a lawsuit in process and you can't discuss the city's plan that removes spouses from the retiree city insurance coverage by mandating the OPERS coverage, which is cost prohibitive. What I want you to consider looking into the actual cost of providing insurance coverage to the retirees, their spouses, their dependents, as well as the active employees, their spouses and dependents, and determine what is feasible for the city and the past and current employees to handle. Now, I had not read the Blue Ribbon Task Force report in depth till today, but it stated that the city and its bargaining units need to look at meaningful long-term economic reform to both the city's self-insured health care plan and retiree health care plan and terminal and retirement plans. These plans, as they're currently structured, pose significant long-term financial risk. I say that the knee-jerk response of the city, cutting out spouses and council's reluctance to review the current plan are not in accordance with the the findings of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Without any question, the current plan does pose both significant short and long-term financial risks to retirees and their families. And until the city comes up with a realistic and affordable adjustment to the plan, and they can work with the unions, work with the retirees, but until then, the negative effects of the current plan will be reflected in city employees, retirees, and the community as a whole. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Nome.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak during our public comment period? Okay. Seeing none, we will close our public comment period and move into our committee meetings. Rules, Councilman Keith.
2:30.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 o'clock Monday, and I would just remind everyone that there will be an overview of the 2018 budget, and then the 3 subsequent evenings at 3 p.m. on Tuesday 6th, Wednesday the 7th, and Thursday the 8th, we will be having our operating budget hearings.
Thank you. Planning, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Keith.
2 o'clock.
Public Utilities, Councilwoman Samples. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Housing, Councilman Kilby. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Economic Development, Councilwoman Sims. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky.
1 o'clock.
Is there anything else coming before the committee this time? Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to take this moment to congratulate the City of Akron as it was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Finance Reporting. And what is astounding about this is this was the 33rd consecutive year that we have received it, and I'm using "we" very loosely because we know that behind us are the real, there she is, are the real people that work to earn that. But with every time we win an award, by gosh, we should acknowledge it for the people that we don't see out here on the council floor. But to you and to all of your staff, thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sims?
Just a reminder to my colleagues, we do have on the books a planned presentation for the Shot Spotter, which is just another tool we're looking at to figure out ways that we can interrupt gun violence that will occur on March the 12th right here in Chambers. If you have not made your reservations, if you would please let Sarah know. If you are not planning to attend. Again, that's Monday, March the 12th at 12 noon. Lunch will be provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. As Councilman Freeman stated, next week we'll be going into budget hearings. And I know we've had members of the retiree community come down and ask us for information regarding if we can afford and if we cannot afford to cover retired spouses. And I know we have a lawsuit, but I don't think in good conscience that we can go into looking at our operating budget without having an answer to that question. So I'm hoping that as council we get an answer to that because part of what we're going to hear in budget hearings is understanding our city's benefit package. Either we can or we can't. It's just that plain and simple. So I'm hoping that if we're going to try to pass this operating budget, that we can have that information. We made a decision before the lawsuit based on some financial numbers that were provided. Those numbers should be public information. We should be able to have that information to make that decision so that we can move and know what we can or cannot do in this area. I think it's only right with us going into budget hearings next week. Also, the month of February, we know that the University of Akron provides this community with an opportunity to grow in understanding on the situation dealing with race with their Rethinking Race series. And if you've participated in the University of Akron's series over the past few years, you know that it has more, the discussions have more to do than just about race. It's every social, if I could use the term, ism that we struggle with as a society, so that we can become just better human beings in how we interact with one another. Well, it's coming to a close, but they had scheduled earlier in the month Dr. Sue to come and speak, and his dialogue is, why is it so difficult to honestly talk about race? And that's it's been rescheduled. It's for this Thursday, March 1st, from 7 to 9 p.m. If you want information, you could contact the university or go online to uakron.edu/race/Sue. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mobian?
You know, several weeks ago, I arose and told the council about some unfortunate things that are happening at the Department of Education. But I can tell you that last week I went to the luncheon of the TRIO program, and I have gone to that luncheon for the last 5-10 years or more. And essentially it's a program at the University of Akron that's really designed to provide all kinds of supports to children in need, even at the college level. We're talking about Upward Bound, we're talking about Talent Search, and just a number of other programs. And every year they bring one of their alums to speak to the group. And it's just astounding what these young people have done. Judge Annalisa Williams is a product of Upward Bound, and there are so many others. It appears that the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, is planning to move that program to a block grant at the state level and doing away with what they are doing at the University of Akron. It is a shame. It's a tragedy to do that. But that's what they are proposing to do. Not only that, we talked about the free and reduced lunches that kids are enjoying at this point. They're now talking about providing box lunches to children, and it makes absolutely no sense at all what they're proposing. If any of you get a chance to talk to any of our Congress people in Washington, please, 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 please let them know all of these senseless moves they're making, destroying programs that have success records that are just unbelievable. And now they're trying to recreate something that's working extremely well. And that is what they're proposing to do. Send the money to the state and have it come to us as a block grant through the Community Development Block Grant Funds. And we know that those funds have already been cut. And every year they're cutting them even more and sending us whatever the residuals are to our communities. So it's unfortunate, but it's pretty sad, particularly with a program that's been so successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else coming before council? Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.